Good morning and welcome to the Really Helpful Club. I'm Sarah Austin and thanks very much for joining us. This is our In Conversation series where we shine the spotlight on leading entrepreneurs. And we've talked to so many interesting entrepreneurs this year, and they've all shared their various journeys about how they've started, launched and grown their business. And this morning is no exception. We're going to be joined by the leading journalist, writer and now entrepreneur, Eleanor Mills. And Ellen will be talking to us about her journey from the corporate world into now an entrepreneur launching her own business, which is Noon. And I was about to steal your thunder, Eleanor, and tell everyone what it was, but I'm not going to do that now. But welcome on board. Lovely to see you. Now, what I'm going to just say, Eleanor, is you're looking ever so slightly blurry on my screen.
Oh, okay.
Anyone else that's tuned in, can you just comment, because we want to make sure we've got Eleanor in full focus. You're looking a bit blurry to me. I can see, Francesca, we've got you on. Can you just comment? That's slightly better actually when you leant in.
Okay, I'll come further forward. Is that better?
Yeah, great. I don't want to waste our time, and I really don't want to dominate that. But it's really good to be able to see you.
Yeah.
So anyway, Eleanor, look, I was just blurry here.
Oh.
Do you think you need to do a quick wipe? Actually, it's looking a bit better. Quick wipe over your.
Wipe over the camera.
Just whilst Eleanor gets herself sorted, we did a tech practice about an hour ago, and Wi-Fi being Wi-Fi, obviously all of us have, well, a lot of us have got kids who are busy taking up Wi-Fi bandwidth at the moment, and that managed to give us lots of challenges. But anyway, fingers crossed. So far, so good. Eleanor, I think you're looking much sharper now. And the comments are saying settling down. So that's nice. Perhaps it's putting a nice sort of soft lens, which is super. But we can also hear you as well perfectly. So that's great news. So Eleanor, what I was just explaining was how you spent the vast majority of your adult life, your career journey with the Sunday Times and in journalism.
Yes.
And in the corporate world. And I think what is fascinating, this series is really about shining the spotlight on entrepreneurs and what inspired them to do what they do. And I think what is really fascinating is to know what were the triggers, what was the inspiration that made you take that leap, which I think is an enormous decision to make, from that corporate world into the exciting but very daunting prospect of launching your own business. So tell us about your journey.
Well, I was at the Sunday Times for nearly 2.5 decades, and I think anyone who's been in the same career for a very long time at some point gets a bit of an itch to do something different. And I, as I said, been there for a long time, you kind of get to a point in journalism where there's not really that much, not really anywhere else to go. And I'd always had a massive passion for, and my whole career as a journalist has been about giving women a voice. I've been chair of women in journalism for the last 6 years. I've been really interested in how women are perceived in society more broadly. And I noticed that there was a real gap between the women that I saw. I turned 50 in December. I just hit a big birthday. So I just thought there was a big gap between the women that I saw in midlife and the things that they were doing and the way that they were being portrayed in the mainstream media. And while I was at the Sunday Times, we did some really good stories around that cohort. I did a story called The Forgotten Army about all the women who had left their careers to maybe to raise children or to do something else, and how difficult they were finding it to get back into careers. And that struck an enormous chord. It was one of the most kind of successful pieces I think we ever ran. And yet there wasn't that much appetite for that kind of thing. So I could see that there was a real interest amongst these women who were being very unserved, and that there might be a kind of gap there. So I've been thinking for a while about running my own thing, and we are about to launch a new platform called Noon on the 8th of March. And the whole point of it is to create a new map of women in midlife and beyond, what those kind of later stages of women's lives can look like. Because I think too often in our society we hear a lot about girls and mothers, but not very much about women when they're older. And I see so many women around me starting up new businesses, or kind of really moving into their prime, discovering their purpose, doing what they really want to do. And yet I didn't really feel that that was being reflected. And I also didn't feel that there was a space for that kind of conversation. So the idea of Noon is to create a new space for women in midlife to discuss the real serious challenges and pinch points that hit us, and happiness actually peaks around the late 40s, because women get hit by a whole variety of stressors, whether that's kind of divorce, redundancy, bereavement, elderly parents, problems with teenagers kind of failing to launch. We all know the territory. And yet when you hit one of those things yourselves, you feel very alone. There isn't really very much out there to support you. And so I wanted Noon to be a new community of supportive women. It's very expert led. We've got some of the top people from my little black book in journalism over the last 25 years giving expert advice. So it'll be a mixture of an online magazine, this amazing expert information, and then online events and retreats, which I'm really excited about. I don't think anybody says to older women enough that they deserve joy, fun, pleasure, all the good stuff. And so the idea of Noon really is to convene amazing women in some fantastic places and have some really interesting and I hope hopeful discussions, which will give women the tools they need to find the next version of themselves, to find their next chapter. Because I don't think anyone talks or thinks about what women do, you know, after they've kind of raised their children, or when the children leave, or there's a big renegotiation that goes on in our lives. So really Noon is there to help women in that space, which I think has been very underserved so far.
Couldn't agree with you more. And it's something that we share a lot of passions, a lot of synergy between what we're doing. And it's something that we can see at Really Help the Club too, is that I think in many ways, you know, women, we get these natural punctuation marks in our life, these natural sort of punctuation points, where it could be having children, it could be taking time out because of wanting to look after a parent, you know, it could be, you know, something around one's relationships, like getting divorced, or, you know, change, I think, comes to us, and it's how we can narrate that, talk about it, and seize opportunities.
Yes, I think change is really difficult. I mean, I went through a very big change myself last year. And what nobody tells you is that actual transition period where you move from being one thing to being another is really hard. And actually one of the most helpful things that anybody said to me during that period was just simply that change is difficult. It's okay to find it hard. There are people here who will kind of hold your hand and help you to a new version of yourself. But actually that period where you're feeling very kind of vulnerable and raw, a bit like a kind of a newborn baby or a kind of egg or something, because you feel like you don't have any of your usual kind of armor or any of the normal or any of the things that you've had which kind of conferred your identity. It's terrifying, but it's also a massive moment of opportunity. And I think that becoming an entrepreneur kind of takes you out of the safe zone and into a whole new world where you really create and define yourself. And after years, you said the difference between, you know, working for a corporate and becoming an entrepreneur. And I think the real difference is you don't have to clear it with anybody else. You know, when you work for a big corporate, there are so many layers above you that, you know, you have to get kind of sign off from. And there would be so many ideas that I had, or we had on our team, which never came to fruition. So what I really love about running my own thing is you can do exactly what you want, which, you know, of course, as well. And, you know, if that goes badly, and of course it is really quite terrifying, if that goes badly, then, you know, that's on you. But at least it's kind of your decision, your choice. And having been part of such an enormous media group for so long, it feels incredibly empowering and fun to be able to go, yeah, let's do it, you know. And you can work with people that you really choose your colleagues, which is fab. And there are so many, I mean, journalism is in a funny state at the moment because newspapers are really shrinking. Their kind of reach is not what it was. Social media, I mean, the fact that we're doing this now on Instagram, you know, you don't have to go through those major platforms anymore to have a voice or to put to create what you want to create. So for me, that's been really heady, that it's a really exciting opportunity to do something that you really believe in. I mean, I talk a lot about purpose. I know there's a bit of a purpose wash going on at the moment, but I really believe that when you do something that you really love, love and you believe in and you think will kind of connect with other people. I think when it really comes from the heart, it really does. And now it's been a real journey for me of kind of synchronicity and becoming an entrepreneur. I had this idea, I found an investor kind of, very easily who really gets it. We've been putting together an incredible team. Tiffany Dark, who used to edit the style section at the Sunday Times, who's a great friend of mine, is our chief content officer on Noon. There's a plethora of incredible people, from Nigat Araf, who's often on BBC Breakfast, who's doing all our stuff around women's health, to an amazing woman called Helen Ward, who's one of the top divorce lawyers in London, who's going to do everything around divorce. Catherine Mayer, who founded the Women's Equality Party and has just written this incredible book called Good Grief, is going to do stuff around bereavement for us. Clover Stroud is going to run our book club. So we've really assembled a fantastic bouquet of the women I find personally most inspiring. And I'm really happy that they're going to share some and create a map of what women's later lives could be. Because I think we're really lacking that as a society. And we'll tackle things which don't get tackled. So for instance, around a third of my friends, and statistically around a third of university educated Generation X women, don't have children. And yet the narrative in our society is so child-centered. So I really want Noon to be an opportunity for women who have chosen to be creative and fecund in different kind of ways to be able to share their stories and have a voice. And, also to help people who've got teenagers who are in trouble. We know there's been a fourfold increase in eating disorders. So one of the first retreats we're going to run is a kind of respite retreat for parents of teenagers who, have really been in trouble in lockdown, because we know what a toll that takes on parents. But we also want to create a space for the child free. And we've got the most wonderful place to do these retreats. It's called Broughton Hall in Yorkshire. It's got a purpose-built spa built on Fibonacci principles, so everything's like a spiral. And I've been lucky enough as a journalist to go to some of the most amazing spas in the world, and I've never seen anything quite like this. And the house is like Downton Abbey, so you can stay in the stately, hang out in your own personal spa. We'll go for amazing walks on the 3,000-acre estate, swim in the pond. They've got incredible wild swimming. Do fire. There's a fire temple. There's a sauna in the woods. So I just think that there are a lot of women who are never told that they have a right to joy, pleasure, happiness, particularly in midlife and beyond. And that's absolutely what we want to deliver at Noon.
Yeah. Couldn't agree with you more. And actually what's lovely is some of the comments coming through, and you're going to really like this. Loving your purpose, which I think is true, but it resonates with all of us, isn't it? And I think COVID has really hit everybody hard between the eyes, that actually what is our purpose? And I think we've all been challenged to redefine it and to almost sort of reinforce it, and to challenge who we are and what really matters and what our sense of priorities are. So look,
I think that's so true. I think that this has been such a year of transition and transformation for everybody. We've all been forced to live in a completely different way. And I think that I was kind of slightly ahead of the curve on that, because I left the Sunday Times just before lockdown. In fact, it'll be a year to the day that I left that we launched Noon. I went to San Francisco to interview Sheryl Sandberg, the Chief Operating Officer of Facebook, for International Women's Day last year, which is the cover of the Sunday Times magazine, and that was on the 8th of March. So we'll launch Noon now, a year on, which feels very serendipitous. But I think that because I went into this transitional point kind of before everybody else went into lockdown. So I think I was kind of thinking about how you move into your next chapter. What is your next act? What do you really want to do? Because I think the reason we've called this site Noon, as in the middle of the day, is that's when the sun is at its zenith. It's when the day is hottest, but you're also halfway through. And I just turned 50, and there's a sense that I've had an amazing life. I've been so lucky, but I've probably got hopefully 20 good years left, and I really want to make those count. And I've always had a passion about trying to change the way women are perceived, trying to show them what they can be. I'm a great believer in that Obama phrase, that phrase that you can't be what you can't see. So I want to model a whole new map of later life for women, what that can be like. And my aim is that our daughters, when they get to kind of, you know, when they're in their 30s, look forward to their noon time, this kind of midlife point where you can really go back and pursue the dreams that maybe you lost sight of along the way. I meet too many women who say that they feel like they're kind of sleepwalking through their own lives. They're kind of not quite sure why they're there or what they're doing it for, and it wasn't what they expected. And my real strong message to them is it's not too late to be what you could have been. You can still do it. And we've got amazing stories on Noon which show that. So a woman who was a civil servant but had always wanted to be a doctor, and she's gone back and retrained, and she's been working on a COVID ward. Or another woman who always wanted to be a stand-up comedian and had been raising children and hadn't had the time, and has gone back and is now really quite a successful stand-up. So rather than those stories you used to get in the papers of I used to be a merchant banker and now here I am on the Hebrides with my sheep, and you go, well, not very helpful because I don't know how you got from A to B. Noon stories will be a real map of how you create change in your life, give you the support to do it, and a real sense of, you know, how you join the dots. So you want to get from A to K, you know, but we'll show you the bits that you need in between and give you the kind of expert advice you need to make the right decisions.
And I also think that it's that sense of honesty with oneself.
Oh,
that,
yes.
You know, it's that sense of expectation. I think that, you know, I loathe generalizations, but actually there's a sort of sense of expectation whether you've gone on a corporate ladder, you know, you've gone through a certain career journey. And I think that at that sort of midpoint in life, as it were, it's time to square up with yourself. It's time to be honest. You know, who are you? Yes. Get to know your inner self. And then where you end up, you need to take that control of who you are and where you want to go. Yes. And then you'll know when you found it. Because my destination will be different to yours. But I could be just as happy, or you could be just as happy, because as long as you know what you want and you enjoy that journey of getting there, then you will have fulfilled and found your purpose. And I think that, again, is just so much expectation, you know, whether it's back to the media, you know, your old stomping ground, or it's just, you know, social media expectations now. It's sort of, it just frames people too much. There's
yes.
You know,
so I know, I completely agree. And I think it's really time for women to reclaim a sense of their own destiny in midlife, to not live by somebody else's playbook, but to really start writing their own. And I think that too many women feel kind of trapped by the hoops that society tells them to jump through, you know, whether, you know, so you get educated. I can see I've got teenage daughters desperately trying to kind of get through their exams, get to university. Then we come out and there's the old TikTok, if you want to have kids, of you've got to get your career set up and maybe find a partner and have some children. And there's a time window on that. Then you've got to raise the kids and, you know, do the job. And so I think for many of us, it's not till you slightly get out the other side of that you can really start thinking, well, what do I want to do? What happened to the person that I was? Yeah. And so I really want to help people refine their passion, their purpose, and really say to them, you can get through the challenges of midlife, which are very real. I come from a family of psychotherapists and psychoanalysts, and my mum and my sister both tell me that women in midlife hit a lot of renegotiating family relationships, particularly with spouses. If you've been together for a long time, what's that next 20 years of your relationship going to look like when the children goes, do you actually really still want to be with that person? How does that all work? Or if you get left, how do you deal with that sense of having been kind of tipped off a roof and being in free fall? Where do you go next? And, you know, we've all been in that situation. And there's also stuff around illness and lots of challenges that hit people. There's an amazing American study into midlife women, and they say that the stresses in this time of life are actually the most extreme that anyone faces at any point, because women hit a kind of multitudinous tsunami of different challenges. And so the twin points of Noon are to help you through those difficult bits to this sunny upland, and to remind you when it feels tough that there is more to come, that just because our society reveres youth and women tend to get written off in their, you know, as they get past their reproductive prime, that doesn't mean to say that we have to accept that script. You know, we can have a new one. And I feel really passionate about that there isn't a map for older women. And there are so many of us who've got so much to offer. And it's also an incredibly lucrative market. I mean, this is also a business venture, but actually women in their 40s and above are now out earning women in their 20s and 30s for the first time ever. And we're also behind 95% of all consumer decisions. But yeah, I don't know about you, but the only thing that anyone ever tries to sell me is wrinkle cream or tenor incontinence pad. Or if I'm really lucky, you know, maybe a kind of wooden floor to put my yoga mat on. And I just think that there's more to us than that. And that the advertising world and the media are so obsessed by younger women and objectifying them that they forget that actually we are a powerhouse and we deserve our own platform. So that's what I'm trying to give you, ladies.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Well, we look forward to sharing that journey with you. Now, one of the things that are back to life as an entrepreneur.
Sorry, I got off script.
You are full of, you know, the enthusiasm and the, you know, the joy and the excitement of launching a business. But one of the things we try to do on this In Conversation series is ask you to sort of share what you've learnt so far. You know, it isn't always a rosy story of, you know, starting a business. It comes with huge challenge too. And if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it and everyone would have succeeded. So, I mean, do you have some challenges that you've had to overcome? And I would think, you know, stepping out of the corporate world, exciting, liberating, but be scary at the same time. Yeah. Because, you know, you walk away from pension, you know, secure income, you know, people to hang out with at the water cooler, you know. And I think that the scary side is not necessarily articulated as well. You know, it's perhaps the glamorized side of being an entrepreneur is great, you know, and we're all on that journey, you know, enjoying that. But I think it's worth covering that narrative too.
Yes, absolutely. So when I was in my 20s, I was lucky enough to travel a lot. I traveled around Indonesia and Mexico, and I met a lot of surfers. You can probably see the remnants of that bit in my hairstyle. And I remember this amazingly cool American guy who I was there with my friend, and she was having a bit of an affair with him. And we just thought he was like the coolest man in the world because all he did was travel from one surf spot to another, and he had the hair and he was great on the waves. And I was going, wow, I want your life. And I remember him turning to me very seriously and going, Eleanor, freedom has no sponsor. And what he meant by that was, yes, it was great when the sun was shining, but he was also saying, you know, well, when I was really ill in Bali last year and I was lying in a kind of hut and I had no health insurance and nobody to fall back on and no girlfriend and family thousands of miles away, you know, the flip side of the kind of heady freedom of riding your own wave is there is no safety net. And I think that is kind of very weird when you come out of a big corporate job. And you've had a kind of status put on you from being in that role. I felt like I had this kind of big kind of black kind of gold Game of Thrones kind of cloak of kind of status and power as kind of editorial director of the Sunday Times. And when you put that down, it's both, you feel very naked and raw, but you also feel very light and quite free. So it's a trade-off, isn't it? I mean, I did a lot of time. You kind of think, well, how much of that external status and validation does anybody need? You know, I really felt I ticked those boxes, and I felt such a passion about this kind of whole stage of women's lives and how it could be made better and all the stories that weren't being told, that I just decided that I was going to use all those things that I've learned, all those people that I've been lucky enough to meet in so many years at the top of the media, and to really try and channel all that knowledge and those connections into a kind of purposeful new project which would really help other women and hopefully really leave a mark. And I always have been quite entrepreneurial. I think as a journalist you have to be quite a self-starter, because at the end of the day it's you and the telephone and, you know, you in the room with whoever that is, that prime minister, that very famous actor, having to get the goods. So I think that I'm quite used to being out on a limb, but it's definitely felt quite frightening. I felt quite scared about coming on to talk to you this morning, and I've done so much live telly and talked at huge conferences, but it's somehow different when it's your thing. You know, you feel so on the line. Yeah. And so, you know, you don't have this huge kind of machine behind you. But then the successes are even sweeter. And we've done some really good deals recently with some big brands who are really keen to be on Noon and understand the proposition. And the joy of winning those pitches, you know, of selling your idea and saying, you know, here we are, this is what I really believe, I really hope this is going to work. And some massive brand going, yes, you know, we back you. That feels sweeter than winning any kind of scoop or prize for editing on the Sunday Times, because you feel that it's much more, you know, it's your thing, it's purely your idea, it's kind of your triumph. And I've also, I think the other key thing about being an entrepreneur is how important it is to have the right business partner, and I'm lucky enough to have a business partner who is very business. I've always been, you know, good at convening people and things and getting ideas together and enthusing, but she's absolutely brilliant at the PowerPoint, the spreadsheet, the hang on, where's the money coming from,
the realism
here, what's the deliverable. And I don't think there's no way we could have not launched Noon so quickly and got to where we are without her amazing experience. She's launched 4 different companies before and is a really serious businesswoman CEO. And so that to me, we're a good team. It's a bit like a marriage. You need you need a business partner who's kind of your opposite, who brings a whole load of skills to the party.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that's a very opportune moment for me to mention our team, who are absolutely fabulous. I know, Francesca, you're on the call, so hi, Francesca. And you know, and Caroline, who runs our events, is amazing, and the job that she has done with pivoting from, you know, we used to only run events in person back in, you know, days of before COVID, you know, aka BC, and pivoted them online amazingly well, and they've been so successful. And actually, we've had way more attendance than we ever had in person. And so it's your team helps you to look forward, to move forward. And then we have Francesca and Rowan, who are building an amazing network and community for us in Hampshire, Surrey and Sussex. And again, you know, each member of the team brings different skills, different expertise, different experiences, and something different to it, which allows you, your collective is so much better than the sum of the whole, you know, that you are combined. It's the effect, the leveraged effect is amazing. So I couldn't agree with you more. You know, having a great team with you is incredible.
Definitely.
So my last question for you, because I know we're coming up to half an hour, and we
that's gone very quickly,
hasn't it? Well, you come back, but we, you know, so here you are in the heady days of launch, any day now.
Terrifying.
And with all the excitement, you know, these amazing things that, you know, in front of you. Let's fast forward a year from now. What will be your dream when we on our next live or LinkedIn live or whatever platform, you know, is the in thing by then? What will be your sense of fulfilled purpose? What do you want Noon to look like?
Well, I really hope that in a year's time we've really helped a lot of women through some difficult points into a whole new future, and where they feel like they've made some friends, they've got some fantastic advice, and that they feel like they're not alone on that kind of midlife journey, both the struggles and the triumphs, and they feel that they've found a tribe of other women and a kind of map for where they can go next. That for me would feel like real progress. And I think that that's something that, you know, society more broadly needs. We're beginning to get drips and drabs of it. I thought Mary Beard was brilliant on Woman's Hour last week, talking about we need a new kind of a new story around the crone and how terrified society still is by women who are kind of beyond their kind of reproductive kind of ceiling, that we still don't know what to do with them, and how ancient those kind of feelings are about the older woman. And so I think this is the real frontier. Everyone talks about diversity, and we've talked a lot about race and those kind of things and sexuality, but actually older women in all cultures are marginalized and not valued in the way that they should be, and in the way that they once were. So it's also really bringing back the kind of wisdom of the older woman and valuing that in a new kind of way. And I think that we can do that. There's been huge changes in women's lives, and for me this is kind of one of the final frontiers, and I think we really owe it to ourselves and our daughters to change the map, change the story around the later parts of women's lives. And that's what I'm really, really passionate about doing.
Absolutely. And now is that time. Eleanor, thank you so much. I mean, as ever, fascinating and such an uplifting time to spend with you. And I've just sort of jotted down, and, you know, in my my forgetful head, some of the things that you've shared with us just now. And I think these are Important. You know, change is difficult, but and it's okay to find it hard.
Yes.
It's not too late to be the person you could have been, or you could be, forgive me. And we need to change a conversation about women, about women's midlives and beyond. And Noon will offer that safe space. So thank you so much. Good luck with the launch. We come back and talk to us again, and I think there's plenty that we can do together between our two organisations. So thank you so much, Eleanor, and thank you very much for joining us. We'll share this on IGTV. We'll share this on the Really Helpful Club website and all the other channels as well. So if you've enjoyed this, please do share this with your friends and followers as well. But thank you very much to everyone for your questions and for joining us. And Eleanor, thanks very much indeed.
Well, thanks so much for having me again, Sarah. You've been a support. I really appreciate it.
You too. You're amazing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.